with the senior squad in Doha for Wednesday's Club World Cup. It means that the under-23s coach Neil Critchley will take to the dugout for the League Cup quarter-final against Aston Villa later.
Great opportunity for all of us, myself included. I'll be very proud to lead the team out tomorrow night. But you know, the pride I will have will come from the players playing to what they're capable of. When you work with the players every day and you've worked with them for a number of years, when I stand on the touchline tomorrow night, I'll be immensely proud of the players who are taken to that pitch, and I hope they go and play how I know they are capable of playing. There's no better feeling for a coach when the players who are representing you and you've got a relationship with go and play to their capabilities, and if they do that, then that's where my pride will come from.
Yeah, you guys will be getting in touch using that hashtag the headline makers. Joseph Dumbulla says that the fixture pile-up for Liverpool will have a real impact. To hear Klopp complaining at some point was not surprising at all. However, if the Reds still hold tight, they will have an energetic laugh at the end. It's quite a few games for them, isn't it, in December? And it is unheard of, 2 games in 2 days, but a real opportunity. Is this the worst thing that Liverpool could have asked for, the Club World Cup, or potentially for these youngsters something that could be really worthwhile going forward?
Schedule-wise, it's not ideal. I'm not really sure about this fixture pile-up because it's effectively... Well, the Villa game is irrelevant because it's just the youth team. Fine, they maybe could have taken some of those youth team players and played them on Wednesday night in the Club World Cup and given a bit of a rest to the first team players. But I'm not... This whole fixture pile-up, I'm not really sure... I don't think it's that big a thing. I don't think Klopp thinks it's that big a thing either.
I think perhaps Joseph there is thinking about, because Klopp has had something to say, hasn't he, about future Champions League games, which is a few years off, adding another group game in, which...
Yeah, well, that is silly.
Yeah,
I think we
that's
can all
for another
agree.
day, that
But as for Liverpool, no, I don't think so. Obviously, the only difference is, I think, if they come back and psychologically their lead's 3 points less because they haven't got a game this weekend. But they're playing West Ham. Any time is probably a good time to play West Ham, even if they were to get a new manager in. Whenever the game's rearranged. The problem will be later on. I don't think it's a problem now. And also Liverpool, they've shown already, starting with the Merseyside derby, they rested a few players here and there. Bournemouth as well, they rested a few players here and there, still won. I think they're in good shape.
Yeah. I was going to say, the competition for places within that squad now, the desire from every player on the fringes of the squad to be part of this, potentially maiden Premier League title win is such that everyone he brings in is turning up. Even a first team like Mohamed Salah realises that, hang on, Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane are going to get a rest here. It's my chance to stand up. 5 goals in 3 games. He's back in absolute top form again. Oxlade-Chamberlain comes in. Xherdan Shaqiri comes in. Naby Keita comes in and scores twice. Everything that Klopp touches at the moment turns to goal. So, no, I think there was a time last season when it was the same with Manchester City, and Guardiola wanted matches because it was they'd already won them psychologically. It was just ticking things off, and I think Klopp's the same.
And when you look at history making, which is what Liverpool are trying to do, and this is this comparison to Klopp taking them into the era similar to the 1980s with the signing of the new contract. We'll talk about that in a minute. But they're still competing for 6 trophies. It would have been 7, wouldn't it, with the Community Shield, which they lost against Manchester City. They've already got the Super Cup in the bag, and no men's team has ever won more than 4. There is a real chance that they could do this. Some are saying that the Premier League's already in the bag.
They don't tend to take the cup competition too seriously. I think they'd have been quite happy if they'd have gone out to Arsenal. They could have avoided this whole Aston Villa youth team situation. Again, with the FA Cup, the thing is with Liverpool, they lose games that don't matter. Last year when they won the Champions League, they lost 3 away games in the Champions League. This year they cut it a bit fine. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. They're still where they need to be. They lost to Wolves in the FA Cup last season. City fans, United fans had a bit of a laugh. Suited Liverpool down to the ground. Bit
they
more
lost
extra
to City
rest.
at the Etihad and lost the league.
That's true enough. That's the game that matters. But, in general, they do, over a season, they will lose 4 or 5 games, but they're not going to be in the Premier League. And in terms of, are they going to win 6 trophies? I doubt they're going to win the Carabao Cup. I doubt they're going to win the FA Cup because you would imagine Klopp will rest players and they'll go out and it won't matter too much. But will they win the Premier League? Can they win the Champions League? That's certainly possible. And then can they win the Super Cup and the Club World Cup? Yeah.
And you also might have a situation where these under-23s that Neil Critchley's taking charge of tonight beat Aston
maybe
Villa,
they win,
and then suddenly they're in a semi-final and all the big boys are back.
Quite possibly. I've kind of taken it as read that Villa will win. But to be fair, this Liverpool team, if they are, they are a cohesive team, they may have a chance. But having seen, Man City even teams of 19, 20-year-olds playing against 23-year-olds in the Premier League too.
Difference.
There's a big difference.
Yeah. What about the Klopp contract? Big news for Liverpool. I mean, it was never really in doubt, was it, that he wouldn't stay?
No. I was going to say he manages on this 7-year cycle. He did it at Mainz, he did it at Dortmund, where he has 2 years, or he sees it as 2 years planning. He has 3 or 4 years peak, and he has 1 or 2 years trying to keep the team at that peak, which he struggled to do at Borussia Dortmund, but I suspect will find easier to do at Liverpool. I don't think we'll see the drop-off that we saw at Dortmund. And he seems to be pretty much the only manager in the modern era that avoids this. Pep Guardiola talked about it at Barcelona, this, how can you ask me to stay more than 4 years? It's impossible for me to do that anymore. There is no energy left. Klopp seems to be able to avoid that, despite being pretty obviously manic on the touchlines and very, very emotional.
I think if he acknowledges, though, he's got the 2 years of planning, obviously he's not considering that a write-off. But if he's thinking, we do these 2 years and then we go, whereas with Guardiola, I think it's right. I'm here, let's go for it. And it's all very condensed. But
then there's more pressure.
But also, if that's your mindset, that you go and you achieve all you can over 3 years, that's how you start to think.
Yeah.
But if Klopp's thinking, okay, 7 years or 7 years, fine, and that's how he breaks it up, that's probably ascribes for how they actually do that and why they're different.
And we're assuming they win the league this season. If they win the league this season, next year is something completely new, really, for Klopp, in that European champions 1 year, Premier League champions the next. That responsibility, there's no element of underdog there. Even Dortmund, even when they got the Champions League final and won the Bundesliga, they were still very much underdogs the next season. That'll disappear if they win the league this season. And that brings with it a different pressure. And that's when Guardiola and Mourinho talk about exhaustion in the job. That's because of the scrutiny that comes with being favourites, not through sheer time spent on the training grounds. That's the next thing.
And is this a sign that Liverpool are slowly beginning to turn the screw? I made that comparison of going back to the 1980s when they had such an amazing era. But you look down the M62 at City and what's happening, and we talked about it, all the uncertainty, one behind Pep and other coaching members and recruitment and players, whereas Liverpool have got all of those things absolutely spot on. We talked about the signing from Salzburg, slowly but surely going in the right direction.
Yeah, but it goes to show, 6 months ago, certainly a year ago, it's exactly the same for City. Everything, City signings are generally very good, but it's because, going back to what I was saying about United earlier, City sign players to fit the system, they go into the coaching setup, and everything's great, they're fine. Guardiola, that setup was solid. And then at Liverpool, it's the same now. But then the challenge is keeping the team at the top. I've written in the past, Guardiola will need an overhaul if he's to keep City at the top. And people are, he spent loads of money already, and they should be. But that ignores it's a necessity in football. If you're a successful team, as Sir Alex Ferguson managed as a freak, to do it over 25 years, you need to refresh the team every few years because you need the players to keep reacting. That will happen to Klopp because it happens to everyone. Pochettino didn't get it at Spurs. We saw what happened to him. Klopp, everything's going well now, but, Liverpool have still got that hunger, as you mentioned. They're still going for it. Once they've had a few trophies in the bag, that does dip, and you just need to keep things on their toes a bit. So, the end of Klopp's contract is a long way off.
Yeah.
And he will have a difficult time at some point.
He's also that carrot manager in that, after the first Champions League final, he dangled, right, let's make amends for this. Let's win it next season. They came so close last season. He said again, look, here's the carrot, keep it. We go again next season. When they've done both of those things, Guardiola's talked about, I think it was it Gundogan that talked about a kind of inbuilt complacency, inevitable complacency when you've won something, but it is harder to go again. And that's what Klopp's going to have to manage. And quite frankly, that's the one thing he struggled with at Dortmund, because they just coasted a little bit, and he can't afford that to happen.
On the subject of carrots, you left all your carrots on the plate, didn't you? And your Brussels sprouts.
I ate half
Never
of
be
them.
able to see in the dark.
I ate half of them, I promise.
Pre-show meal. Just finally on Liverpool, Joe Gomez was there tweeting on the left of the screen saying, hard fought, 3 points and a clean sheet. But that game against Watford, they showed that it was fatigue sums it up, didn't it? Hard fought, Joe Gomez has summed it up.
I don't know about fatigue maybe, but I thought Liverpool were playing in yellow at the weekend. If you look at the chances... And again, there was a few reports, now they've got back-to-back clean sheets.
Sarah Decor
they're looking a bit better, but
away,
the chances they conceded, and it just goes to show individual talent. So Salah going on that break and putting the ball in the corner, that's fantastic. And then talent and a bit of luck, because the chances that Watford missed were shocking. But then everyone's looking at Salah's back heel because it was fantastic. That little flick, brilliant. Origi's chance was awful, and it fell to Salah and he flicked it in.
Yeah,
grinding up
Watford's
results.
chances were awful and didn't fall to anyone. They went begging. So there was look, Liverpool are great because they're very well coached and they've got individual talent, and that's why they are where they are and where they have been. But they were very lucky at the weekend.
Like Watford, incidentally, got the lowest shot conversion rate in the Premier League. Nigel Pearson's got a huge job on his hands there.